UCLA's latest transfer portal commits indicate Bob Chesney's crew has a sense of savvy we haven't seen UCLA's recruiting in quite some time.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever it's your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back, every dayers. UCLA continues to eat in the portal. They are eating. Bob Chesney is on fire, and I know Deshaun Foster had some good moments in the portal. Chip Kelly definitely had his moments in the portal, but the Bruins are doing this with not just pizzazz. They're doing this with reason. The amount of guys, the guys who they're targeting, obviously it sucked that they didn't get a top-tier tight end like Dorian Thomas, who was looking like he was going to lean to UCLA. Maybe that there's a couple of top-tier linebackers still out there. But the Bruins are here in the midst of a Sahir West race. They're battling for top-tier talents on the skill positions. They didn't have to overpay for a quarterback that we know of while looking for a new one. They kept Nico. And the Bruins are attacking the defensive side of the football now with positions of need. The most recent commits are Anthony Saka and Amir Washington. We're going to start with Amir Washington, who is a D-line transfer from Texas Tech. And if you're wondering, why is there not a lot of stats for Amir Washington on defense, especially on the D-line? Well, if you remember this offseason, this is a guy who was a part of a Texas Tech team that was top tier in the country, one of the best D-lines. UCLA, I think, what was it, David Bailey? He went to UC, he was thinking about going to UCLA, then went to Texas Tech, because Texas Tech was spending money left and right to build a super defensive line. So is that a knock on if Washington didn't play as much? No, but here are his numbers. A 6'2 defensive lineman, last few years, 21 tackles, 26 games appeared, tackle for loss, 6 tackles for loss, and 2.5 sacks. So still expected to have a couple of years of eligibility, but in the portal, you go year by year. A guy who could make some impact and a chance for playing time. All right. Texas Tech is paying, maybe overpaying guys to rebuild and stack their D line. So he wasn't really going to crack that defensive line. UCLA, they have a lot of need on the D line. So that's where Washington comes in to fill a key gap in UCLA's defense, trying to hit the defensive line. If you saw Siale Taupaki, UCLA, one of UCLA's defensive linemen for the last billion years, he went to Penn State. So the Bruins are losing some pieces here and there, trying to upgrade, trying to see which guys are looking for new spots, new fits. And Amir Washington showcases the Bruins know what they need to get physical, go after guys who are part of really good teams, really good rosters, and just waiting for that opportunity to shine. Some of which have previous connections to Bob Chesney from a previous stop or the last stop at James Madison or a year prior to that. Amir Washington, though, a little different. Looks like Colin Hitchler, the UCLA defensive coordinator, also from JMU, might be able to utilize him in a various role, right? Maybe was balancing between outside linebacker, looking to go towards D-line. We'll see what that looks like for his role at UCLA as the Bruins are battling for Sahir West also on that D-line. The other commit is Anthony Sacca, kid from New Jersey, started his career at Notre Dame. And what did UCLA need? What did I want? What does everybody want for them? To be physical up front and to replace what they're losing on the linebacking side with Isaiah Chisholm in the portal and John Vaughn's exhausting all of his eligibility. You bring in Saka, who didn't have any playing time, didn't really see any action as a freshman, but was a 4-star if you rate him from ESPN and Rivals, according to the Notre Dame website, 3-star by 24/7 Sports and On3, top 20 recruit in the state of New Jersey. And again, UCLA needs to stockpile talent. They brought Scott Taylor back. They brought Drew Spinagati from JMU over, who's got some playing time. This is a youngster in Saka who could get some playing time, might be battling either Scott Taylor, Spinagati, is some depth, and has some extra years of eligibility for a defense that, depending on what Colin Hitchler is going to run at UCLA, could see some impact from Saka. And here's the thing. He had maybe some ties to Penn State. Dad was a quarterback at Penn State way back in the day and a second-round pick by the Arizona Cardinals. His mom played soccer at West Virginia. So if you're going based on potential, he's got an athletic family. The kid played well in New Jersey. went to Notre Dame. Probably wasn't going to see the field as a freshman in Notre Dame, a team that, for all their whining and complaining, for all the nonsense that USC is putting towards them, let's talk about that product on the field. Notre Dame was, at worst, a top 15 team, whether they played in the Pop-Tarts Bowl or not, which could have been this kid's chance to play if they played in the bowl game, which sucks for him because you can play in that bowl game without burning your red shirt. That can count that doesn't count towards one of those red shirt games. That won't hurt you. So maybe that would have been a chance if those guys had opted out of that bowl game for a guy like Saka to play if he wanted to get his first action in a Notre Dame uniform. Either way, he moves to UCLA, and there's potential there for him to grow. Athletic family between dad and mom, and you hope that he could translate that into onto field action at UCLA. So there's not really any collegiate tape for him outside of maybe practice tape for UCLA to go on, but solid recruit. And if he's going to Notre Dame and UCLA's bringing him over, I think the Bruins can do just fine. And defensively, Notre Dame was fine. He wasn't going to crack the field for a playoff contender, if you will, playoff-esque contender, regardless of what we think of Notre Dame. He wasn't going to crack that field as a true freshman unless he was a superstar. At UCLA, you're going to be contending for playing time immediately. And what does UCLA need? They need linebackers. They got another defensive lineman. So now the big swing, UCLA got one offensively. They were leaning James Madison's way night in the running back position. Got 3-4 top-tier receivers, all with varying skill sets. The Bruins are waiting now to see if they can win that Sahir West battle in the recruitment. Can they use that Bob Chesney connection, what they were able to do with Colin Hitchler as the defensive coordinator, with Sahir West as the Sun Belt Freshman of the Year, and turn that into something super successful in this 2026 recruiting battle? Those are all things you're going to have to wait and see here on Locked On UCLA. We're waiting just as much. It's close. It's a battle. Can the Bruins bring in the superstar on the D-line, who would be a game wrecker for the Bruins and just be the cherry on top of what's been a pretty excellent, pretty solid class? The Bruins are sitting here top 20 right now in transfer portal recruiting. That could shift to top 15. That could dip just outside the top 20. But the Bruins have a purpose with what they're going after. Even if they lose, they still get somebody after. Even with who they select as a backup third-string quarterback in Ty Diefenbach from Cal Poly has some promise and potential if for some reason anything goes wrong, right? For Nico this year, for shifting back to the offensive side with the quarterback. Everything they're going after, purposeful. They have a reason. In years past, yes, Chip Kelly tried to get the underheralded guy. Deshaun Foster tried to stockpile whatever his staff thought was the most talent or whatever they needed. But now the Bruins are addressing experience with potential, with positions of need. But they brought in a Drew Spinagati with potential, with experience, and now they're bringing in Saka with potential. You're combining those two things and hoping one of those things work out, and you have a returner with Scott Taylor. You see what UCLA's bringing in. They bring in a DJ Barksdale, but then they have Scooter Jackson as returner. All right, so they're balancing returning production, experience, versus guys who know the system at James Madison to potential from the portal. That's a good strategy for what UCLA's trying to implement here with bringing in new talent, new vibes, a new culture with Bob Chesney. And I think he's going to implement that very well at UCLA in Westwood and hopefully in Pasadena for years to come. Now, we're going to talk more UCLA, more basketball, more men's and women's basketball, more craziness, but those will be on future Locked On UCLA episodes. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.